They think it's easy.
Yeah.
And when you think it's easy, even a fighter of his caliber can beat you. And look good
To the end, Chris had nothing to give. And that, you remember the last fight, Chris had nothing left to give. Conor did. And the way Conor boxed, he did. He never left him alone. Ripped his heart out. He did the right thing.
You know, Conor boxed amazing. He boxed that way the first time he won the fight. He worked on his jab, worked on moving. I say it to somebody like, if Conor jabs and moves his head on defense, he wins the fight, and he won it.
Chris Eubank Jr.'s father destroyed his son after humiliating loss to Conor Benn. Chris Sr. ripped into him not just for losing, but for showing a flat, lifeless performance. He called out every mistake, making it clear that talent alone won't cut it. Discipline and effort are everything in that ring.
and keep on digging yourself into the pit that you're digging yourself into.
There's a fight fan asking me to ask you.
Chris Sr. wasn't holding back, unleashing a full-scale verbal attack on his son. Every shout exposed his frustration over Chris Jr.'s lack of fight urgency. It was more than criticism, T was a public schooling. Even as the fight ended, Sr. made it crystal clear mediocrity wouldn't be tolerated and his son needed to stop embarrassing himself in front of the world.
Last round, I was shouting, Rastafari, lick him up, Rastaf, lick him up, lick him, no, I got into the feeling.
Duke McKenzie's words cut deep. Chris Jr. entered the ring visibly broken by the weight cut. There was no energy, no fight in his legs. He looked completely hollow. This wasn't just a technical failure, it was a physical collapse. Conor Benn capitalized on every weakness, making the fight a total mismatch from the opening round.
His jab, he was snatching at it, he didn't want to get it. Was Conor Benn any better than the first time? We don't even know really. I can't take anything away from it. Conor Benn come out.
Carl Froch's words leave no room for debate. Chris Eubank Jr. was thoroughly outclassed. 2 knockdowns in the final round alone underlined the brutality of the night. Chris's lack of preparation, fading stamina, and poor execution meant Benn dominated every phase of the fight. It was a masterclass in control and precision by Benn, exposing Chris Jr.'s weaknesses for all to see.
Conor Benn has just absolutely battered Chris Eubank Jr., wiped him out. It didn't render him unconscious, but he did flatten him, face first on the canvas in round 12, dropped him twice in a 10-7 round. And on my scorecard, he won every round except for, you could argue round 3 went to Chris, but it was a shutout performance from Conor Benn.
Eddie Hearn points out just how unstoppable Conor Benn was. Even if Chris Jr. had attempted to come back stronger, Benn's tactical brilliance and execution never wavered. Hearn emphasizes that experience and preparation mean nothing without adaptability, something Chris Jr. sadly lacked. The contrast in focus and energy made the outcome inevitable, leaving Chris Jr. humiliated despite all his previous efforts.
But Conor was right in that, the performance tonight was unbelievable. It didn't matter if Eubank was better tonight, we were still winning the fight. But that first fight, when you go through a fight like that, it can change you forever. But it didn't change Conor Benn, it just made.
Johnny Nelson perfectly captures Chris Eubank Jr.'s critical mistake. He destroyed any advantage he might have had in the first fight by exhausting himself trying to make weight again. While Benn stayed sharp, rested, and energized, Chris Jr. put himself in a physically and mentally compromised position. This wasn't just a loss, it was a cautionary tale on how overextending and mismanaging your body in boxing can leave you completely exposed in the ring. Nelson's analysis underscores why Benn dominated from bell to bell.
I'm not sure what I can get away with from the last fight. For Chris, the pendulum is, he's rinsed himself down that much, he's thinking he can do it again. As I said, anybody can get down to the weight, it's what you can do with the weight. Boxing's the worst place to be if you aren't going to put yourself at a disadvantage, because it's the only place you can legally get killed. And so what Chris did was, Chris depleted any advantage he had.
Hamza Shiraz nails it. Conor Benn's energy and strength were off the charts, giving him a huge advantage in this rematch. Without the strain of making weight, Benn could move fluidly, punch powerfully, and maintain pace throughout. Meanwhile, Chris Jr. looked drained and sluggish, his body unable to keep up. Shiraz highlights the massive impact physical condition has in boxing, proving that preparation and energy management can make the difference between dominance and humiliation.
He was just too much, bro. He was too energetic. He was too strong. Listen, he didn't have to make weight for this. And when you're a fighter, you don't have to make weight, and you've got all that energy, you've got that strength, you're buzzing, bro.
Dominic Ingle lays it bare Chris Eubank Jr. completely failed to show up in this rematch. Despite all the hype and preparation, his legs betrayed him, leaving him flat and lifeless in the ring. Conor Benn capitalized on every weakness, showcasing superior energy, timing, and ring IQ. Ingle's disappointment reflects what the fans felt. Chris Jr.'s potential was wasted, and the fight only truly came alive in the final round when Benn sealed the decisive victory. It's a stark reminder that physical condition and preparation can't be ignored, and even talent alone won't overcome poor performance in the ring.
Fortunately for me, the fight didn't live up to the expectations. I'm extremely underwhelmed how they've pulled that off. Very, very, very poor fight. Disappointing. It came alive in the last round. That's it. The last round it happened, and Conor Benn got the win. You know, rightly so. But Eubanks tonight didn't turn up. Old overnight. His legs weren't in it.
Adam Smith highlights the stark contrast between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. in this fight. Benn's jab, movement, and precise body shots controlled the pace, allowing him to dominate every exchange. Meanwhile, Chris Jr. looks sluggish, stuck, and completely unable to respond to Benn's tactical mastery. Smith's analysis emphasizes that Benn wasn't just winning rounds, he was dictating the fight from start to finish. The performance exposed Chris Jr.'s lack of energy and preparation, reinforcing that even skill and experience can't compensate for poor conditioning and underwhelming execution in high-stakes fights.
Yeah, that's sort of what everyone's saying. I think that Conor Benn boxed really well. I thought he was smart behind the jab. I thought his jabs were excellent tonight to head and to body. I thought his body shots were good. His movement, I mean, Conor Benn put a standout performance on. If you look at Chris, I thought he looked flat. I thought he was sort of stuck in the mud.
Carl France's breakdown leaves no room for debate. This fight was a complete shutout. Conor Benn dominated every round, even scoring 2 knockdowns in the final 10, 7 round. France's scorecard, 121-08, tells the story of a one-sided affair, with Chris Eubank Jr. only potentially taking a single round at best. The rematch proved that Benn's strategy, energy, and precision outclassed Chris Jr. entirely. France's insight reinforces how decisive this victory was, making any talk of a trilogy seem unlikely unless Chris Jr. can radically improve his conditioning, ring IQ, and ability to execute under pressure.
Just thought they could set up a trilogy, so if it's close, they give it to Conor Benn. But listen, it wasn't close. My scorecard reads 120-108. Chris Eubank Jr. may have shared the third round. The Haymaker had that one shared, so I shared it as well with him. But the last round was a 10-7 round, 2 knockdowns. So it was a shutout performance from round 1 right through to...
Johnny Nelson lays bare Chris Eubank Jr.'s critical miscalculation. By draining himself to make weight, Chris destroyed any potential advantage he had, leaving himself vulnerable to Benn's energy and skill. Nelson stresses the brutal reality of boxing. Overextending physically and mentally can be fatal in the ring. Benn exploited every opening, proving that preparation, strength, and tactical awareness always trump bravado or previous experience. Nelson's warning is clear. Chris Jr.'s failure wasn't just a loss. It was a self-inflicted setback that showcased how strategic mistakes and physical depletion can completely change the outcome of a fight, even against a familiar opponent.
I'm not sure what I can get away with from the last fight. For Chris, the pendulum is, he's rinsed himself down that much, he's thinking he can do it again. As I said, anybody can get down to the weight, it's what you can do at the weight. Boxing's the worst place to be if you aren't going to put yourself at a disadvantage, because it's the only place you can legally get killed. And so what Chris did was, Chris depleted any advantage he had.
Derek Chisora breaks down a critical element of Chris Eubank Jr.'s downfall, the brutal physical and mental toll he endured just to make weight. Chisora points out that Chris was obsessed with avoiding a massive fine, which pushed him to extremes in training and weight loss. This overexertion drained his energy, sapped his strength, and left him incapable of performing at his peak. Even his jab, a fundamental weapon, lacked snap and impact, highlighting how dangerous it is to compromise one's body in boxing. Chisora's insight shows that while dedication is vital, overtraining or focusing on penalties rather than strategy can destroy a fighter's chances. Chris Jr.'s mismanagement contrasts sharply with Conor Benn, who entered the ring energized, sharp, and fully prepared. This clip underlines that peak performance isn't just talent, it's about balance, strategy, and respecting the limits of the human body in a fight.
I don't know. He just didn't do. He didn't snap his jab. I think he didn't want to pay that $500,000 fine. So he trained so hard. He lost weight. You want to pay the fine.
Derek Chisora breaks down a critical element of Chris Eubank Jr.'s downfall, the brutal physical and mental toll he endured just to make weight. Chisora points out that Chris was obsessed with avoiding a massive fine, which pushed him to extremes in training and weight loss. This overexertion drained his energy, sapped his strength, and left him incapable of performing at his peak. Even his jab, a fundamental weapon, lacked snap and impact, highlighting how dangerous it is to compromise one's body in boxing. Chisora's insight shows that while dedication is vital, overtraining or focusing on penalties rather than strategy can destroy a fighter's chances. Chris Jr.'s mismanagement contrasts sharply with Conor Benn, who entered the ring energized, sharp, and fully prepared. This clip underlines that peak performance isn't just talent, it's about balance, strategy, and respecting the limits of the human body in a fight.
I don't even think I'll speak to him again because I find he's the right prat. He's an idiot. He tries to quote scripture and all that. He don't even know what he's talking about. He didn't even know what a friggin' harlot was, and he's talking about himself. You know what I mean? So I just can't get him.
The Wade concept emphasizes just how dominant Conor Benn was in this rematch. From the opening bell, Benn controlled every exchange, leaving no room for doubt or controversy. This was not the close, tactical battle some expected. It was a full showcase of Benn's skill, energy, and strategic intelligence. Chris Eubank Jr., by contrast, appeared drained, outclassed, and unable to mount meaningful resistance. Wade's perspective highlights the scale of the turnaround from their first fight of the rematch, displayed a stark contrast in preparation, execution, and mindset. Chris Jr.'s inability to adapt or recover underscores the brutal reality of elite boxing. Talent alone cannot compensate for poor conditioning, depleted energy, and strategic errors. The rematch solidified Benn as the superior fighter and serves as a cautionary tale about overexertion and mismanagement in the sport.
Conor Benn just dominated the rematch. It was not even close. From the first round on, this was a completely different fight from the first one. It was not in any way, shape, or form even round 13 of the 12 previous. This was a completely different Chris Eubank Jr., completely different Conor Benn, and
Adam Smith breaks down the fight with surgical precision, praising Conor Benn's flawless execution. Benn's speed, footwork, and precision jab, particularly targeting the body, disrupted Chris Eubank Jr.'s rhythm from the start. The early damage compromised Chris Jr.'s mobility, leaving him flat, predictable, and unable to respond effectively. Smith's commentary highlights that Benn wasn't just winning, he was controlling every aspect of the fight, leaving Chris Jr. to appear completely outclassed. The near stoppage in the final rounds emphasizes just how dominant Benn was, showcasing a textbook display of strategy, timing, and power. Chris Jr.'s performance, by contrast, was lifeless and devoid of the spark or tactical adaptability needed at this level. Smith's insight reinforces that preparation, execution, and maintaining energy levels are critical, and Chris Jr. failed on every front.
Yeah, Conor was brilliant tonight, executing the game plan. I thought he was quick. I thought he was, his feet were good. I thought his jab was terrific, especially for the body. Body shots did early damage, and yeah, I mean, he was punch perfect and almost got the stoppage win at the end. On the flip side, Chris was disappointing, flat, stuck in.
After everything we've seen, it's impossible to ignore how brutal and decisive Conor Benn's victory over Chris Eubank Jr. was. From start to finish, Benn controlled the pace, punished Chris with precision, and showcased a level of strategy and skill that left no doubt about who was the better fighter on the night. Chris Jr., despite his talent and pedigree, simply couldn't keep up. His overexertion, poor weight management, and drained energy cost him dearly, and even his father's harsh criticism underscores just how disappointing his performance was. Fans are debating whether Chris Jr. can ever recover mentally and physically to challenge at this level again, and whether a trilogy fight could even make sense. But one thing is clear, Benn proved he's a master in the ring, methodical, ruthless, and fully prepared. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more hot boxing analysis, fight recaps, and insider commentary, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and ring the notification bell. Comment below, do you think Chris Eubank Jr. can bounce back, or is Ben just too far ahead?